The moment my own son told me, "There's no place for you in this house," I didn't argue. I simply smiled, picked up my suitcase, and walked out quietly. What he didn't know was that by the very next morning, he would no longer own that house. It began 3 months after George passed. The day I signed over the $2 million life insurance payout from his company to Andrew, I did it with steady hands and a heart full of purpose. "It's your future," I told him. "A fresh start." He'd just married Melissa, and they were eyeing a luxury property in Ballantyne, an exclusive gated enclave on the southern edge of Charlotte. Their mortgage application was shy of approval. The bank wanted a larger down payment. I didn't even blink. George had always said, "Money means nothing if it doesn't buy peace for those we love." Andrew hugged me tighter than he had in years. Melissa had tears in her eyes, perfect, glistening, as if directed by a Hallmark channel, and whispered, "You'll always have a place with us, Margaret." Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment to let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another emotional and dramatic story. The villa was stunning. White stone exterior, marble floors so polished they mirrored your soul back at you. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a koi pond, and the kitchen belonged in a gourmet magazine. They offered me the guest suite on the first floor. It wasn't grand. No windows, no closet, just a narrow twin bed and a private half bath. But I smiled. After all, I hadn't heard voices in my home since George passed. The sound of movement upstairs, doors opening and closing, the laughter of youth, I thought it would comfort me. The first week was warm. Andrew brought me morning coffee in porcelain cups. Melissa showed me how to adjust the underfloor heating through the tablet on the wall, though she sighed with every reminder I needed. We had dinner together around the 10-seat glass table. We even watched an old movie one night. Melissa fell asleep halfway through, her head on Andrew's shoulder. I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be home. But the second week brought changes, subtle at first. One evening, Melissa joked to a friend on speakerphone that she was raising 2 kids and a senior with Alexa issues. I laughed politely from the other room, pretending I didn't understand. A few days later, Andrew groaned when I asked if I could mount a small book rack in the laundry room. He mumbled something about aesthetics and not altering resale potential. Then came the locked fridge upstairs. Melissa said it was for meal prep, though I never touched it. The Wi-Fi password changed. When I asked, she handed me a post-it note and rolled her eyes. I tried to stream a film one night, but the connection kept dropping. I gave up and watched the koi fish gliding outside instead. The worst part wasn't the exclusions. It was how they wrapped them in civility, as if their discomfort with me was my own fault for not being tech-savvy enough, not young enough, not convenient enough. One afternoon, I heard them from the foyer. I had just returned from walking the garden path, hands smelling of lavender and rosemary, when I caught Andrew's voice around the corner, calm, deliberate. "She won't leave if we keep being nice," he said. "We've got to push her out without a fight." Melissa's response cut sharper. "She won't sign her share over unless she feels unwanted. Make it uncomfortable. She'll leave on her own." I froze. The vase in my hand, a wedding gift to them, Waterford crystal, slipped slightly, but I caught it. I stood there, breathing through my nose, staring at the wallpaper I helped them pick from a designer catalog. I remembered Melissa squealing, "It gives spa energy." That night, I made truffle ravioli, Andrew's favorite. I plated it on their fine china, the one with gold trim. I lit a single candle. I poured wine. I waited. Melissa texted from upstairs. "Already 8." Andrew never came down. He claimed he was swamped with a last-minute call. I sat alone in the dining room, staring at the flickering flame, the untouched plate across from me, and the wine growing warm. I thought about the macaroni nights, the school recitals, the tearful nights Andrew crawled into my bed when his science fair model broke. I thought about every birthday card he ever made for me, stored still in a shoebox tucked in my suitcase. And I wondered, when did I become a burden, a calculation? But I didn't cry. Instead, I folded the napkin, cleared the table, and loaded the dishwasher, like I always had. I wiped the marble counters. I smoothed my hair. I went to my room, pulled out my leather suitcase, and quietly placed inside only what mattered. A navy cardigan George had bought me on our anniversary in Venice, the frame with his photo, and a red folder I hadn't opened in years. The one with the title, Deed to the house. When I closed the zipper, it didn't even catch. That night, I made his favorite truffle ravioli. Neither of them came downstairs. It was a quiet Thursday morning, the kind where the sun streamed through the plantation shutters just so, casting soft lines across the imported tile floors. I had just rinsed a bowl of strawberries, setting them on a linen napkin embroidered with Melissa's initials. The scent of basil still lingered on my fingers from pruning the kitchen herb wall. Then Melissa walked in. She didn't say good morning. She didn't ask if I wanted coffee. She just stood there, arms folded, face blank, silk robe belted tightly around her waist like armor. Maybe it's time you found something more permanent. I blinked. The bowl of strawberries felt heavier in my hands. For your comfort, of course, she added. Your own space, your own routine. The kind of sentence that wore a smile but wielded a dagger. I didn't answer. I just stared at the strawberries, wondering if I should bother hulling them. A moment later, Andrew stepped in, coffee in hand, as if summoned by cue. His hair was damp, and he wore a tailored polo that hadn't seen a wrinkle in its life. He kissed Melissa's cheek and then turned to me. We don't have space for you anymore, Mom. There it was. The line. He said it like he was confirming an Amazon return. No hesitation, no heartbreak, just a decision, processed, approved, delivered. I wiped my hands on the dish towel, the one with gold embroidery that said, "Home is where the heart is." I turned to them both and smiled. Not wide, not sarcastic, just still. Okay, I said softly. I'll be out by tonight. Melissa's eyebrows lifted just slightly, and for a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Regret? Guilt? No, just surprise. Andrew nodded, as if he'd just completed a task on his to-do list. Thanks, Mom, he said, already turning toward the stairs. I walked slowly back to my suite, the one without a closet, where I kept my few clothes pressed inside a lacquered steamer trunk. I opened it with the practiced hands of someone who had packed their life away more than once. Inside, everything was already where it needed to be. The hand-stitched quilt from George's mother, folded at the base, the blue cashmere cardigan from Paris, worn but warm, a small silver case with his cufflinks and my wedding ring, and at the bottom, beneath a false lining, the red leather folder. The deed, my name, printed clearly next to Andrew's. 51%. I ran my finger over the embossed cover, not because I needed to check, just because it grounded me. No one had remembered I owned the majority of the house. Not them. Not even Andrew, it seemed. But I had. I closed the trunk, locked it, and dialed a number I had stored under Plan B. A concierge car arrived within the hour, an obsidian-colored Bentley with cream leather seats that smelled like quiet power. The driver took my luggage with a polite nod and opened the back door with white-gloved hands. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't write a note. I didn't leave a dish in the sink or a shoe out of place. I simply walked past the koi pond, past the marble pillars, past the home I had helped build with love and capital, and stepped into the car like I was arriving, not leaving. The ride was smooth, Charlotte's skyline shimmering like polished silver behind us. I sat with the red folder on my lap like a crown, not in vengeance, but in certainty. They had built their lives on my foundation, and now I had taken the ground back. At the boutique hotel, the doorman greeted me by name. "Welcome back, Mrs. Whitmore." Back. As if I belonged. I smiled for the first time that day. The front desk staff already had my suite ready, room 7C, a corner unit with a city view, a kitchenette, and a soaking tub I knew I'd never use but liked knowing I could. The room was warm, quiet, the kind of quiet I chose. I unpacked, slowly, hung my cardigan by the door, placed George's photo on the marble side table beside a small orchid, slid the red folder under the bed inside the locked drawer I'd used before. Then I sat on the velvet chair near the window and watched the clouds gather. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I simply breathed. Outside, the wind picked up. A soft rumble of thunder rolled in the distance like a warning or a promise. I wasn't sure which. But I knew one thing. They didn't know it yet, but their nightmare had already begun. I sat in the bay window of the hotel suite, sipping chamomile tea and staring out at the skyline of Charlotte. Below, the city moved like it always had, traffic lights blinking like lullabies, pedestrians with phones glued to their ears, lives rushing past me as mine had finally slowed to stillness. For the first time in months, no one needed anything from me. No one huffed at a forgotten detail. No one sighed at a question. No one rolled their eyes when I asked where the modem had gone. It was liberating, but liberation is not the same as justice. The morning after I left Andrew and Melissa's marble prison, I walked down to the hotel business center and slipped the red folder from my leather tote. I slid out the deed and made 5 crisp copies on ivory stock paper. 1 for myself, 1 for a lawyer if it came to that, and 3 more for anyone who dared question whether Margaret Whitmore had a claim to that $3.5 million villa. I placed the originals back in the folder, zipped it shut, and walked to the nearby cafe. It was one of those old money establishments, mahogany counters, brass lamps, employees who wore pressed vests and remembered your name after one visit. I ordered a black coffee and added a tiny splash of almond cream, the way George used to make it for me on cold mornings. I was halfway through my second sip when the call came. Blocked number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, the same something that had told me to book the hotel a week in advance, whispered, "Take it." "Mrs. Whitmore," a man's voice said, "this is Brad from Carolina Private Lending. You're listed as a co-owner of a property on Grayson Park Drive." I paused, letting his words settle like dust on polished glass. "Yes," I said cautiously. He cleared his throat. "There's been a default. Mr. Andrew Whitmore took out a business loan of $950,000 using the home as collateral. Unfortunately, the payments have been delinquent for over 5 months. We've sent 3 notices. He's in breach of contract. Unless the balance is resolved, foreclosure proceedings will begin this Friday." I didn't blink. "What are my options?" I asked. Brad explained. "I could pay off the loan, or I could release my claim and allow the bank to proceed." He said it gently, as if I might panic, as if I didn't already know my answer. "Can you email the documents to me?" I said. "Of course. Right away." He thanked me for my time. I didn't thank him back. I ended the call, sipped my coffee, and stared out the window. Somewhere in that sprawling city, Andrew was likely on another call, explaining to a vendor why his digital marketing startup was still scaling, or assuring Melissa that things would turn around next quarter. But the quarter had ended. The game was over. I returned to the hotel, printed the documents, and took out George's Mont Blanc pen, the one he used to sign the closing documents on his first construction project, back when we were still dreaming with dust on our boots. And with deliberate, practiced strokes, I signed every line. No hesitation, no regret, just ink and finality. Then I scanned them and clicked send. An hour later, Brad called again. "Just confirming receipt," he said. "The foreclosure will proceed as scheduled." "Thank you," I replied, then hung up. I turned off my phone, and I sat very, very still. The stillness wasn't empty. It was earned. Later that evening, I walked 2 blocks to the high-end grocer nearby. I picked up a tin of crackers, a jar of imported honey, and a single-serve bottle of Bordeaux. I paid in cash. The woman at checkout smiled and called me Miss Margaret, though I'd never told her my name. I liked that. Back in the suite, I poured the wine into crystal, placed the honey and crackers on a china saucer, and toasted, not to revenge, not even to justice, but to something more rare, clarity. I slept with the red folder under my pillow. The next morning, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name that used to bring joy. "Andrew, did you cancel something with the house? We just got a weird letter from a lender." I didn't respond. 3 hours later, "There's a notice on the door. Call me." Still nothing. At 3:17 p.m., Melissa, "Margaret, please. We're confused. Just tell us what's going on." I powered off the phone, not to be cruel, to stay sane, because if I heard her voice, sweetened with false confusion and weaponized concern, I might forget that silence is sometimes sharper than shouting. That night, as thunder echoed faintly in the distance, I opened my journal. In blue ink, I wrote, "Today, they lost everything." And I found my silence. I turned the page and kept writing. I didn't flinch when the first Facebook posts appeared. Melissa's pastel-tinted lament about losing everything at the hands of someone we trusted. Her tale of betrayal, carefully crafted in cursive over flowered backgrounds. But I noticed how many people believed her, at least at first. And then I turned to the red folder again, its contents untouched, its power intact. They had built their fortress on my foundation, and I had walked away with the keys, and I still hadn't said a word. 3 days after the foreclosure notice went live, the doorbell to my suite rang, not the phone, not a text, not an email, a knock, firm, soft, practiced. I sat still on the sofa, fingers curled around a cup of peppermint tea, half sipped and cooling. The curtains were drawn, the room washed in late afternoon gold. Outside, the clouds were thick with summer thunder, but inside everything was quiet. I rose, slowly, looked through the peephole, and there she was. Melissa, hair slightly tousled, wearing a flowy blouse, 2 sizes too big, deliberate. Her makeup was smudged just enough to suggest exhaustion, not dishevelment. Her eyes puffy, but not red. She held a baby, bundled in a blush pink blanket, all softness and scent and suggestion, and over her shoulder hung a diaper bag I recognized immediately. Posh baby. Retail value, $950. A designer line I remembered from a catalog in the hotel lobby. I didn't open the door, not fully, just cracked it, 2 inches. Linda, she said softly, using my first name for the first time in years. I'm not here to fight. We don't know what to do anymore. Her voice cracked. Josh is falling apart, she whispered. We got kicked out of the rental. We failed the credit check. Our phones are on borrowed time. We're drowning. Please, can I come in? I paused for 3 full seconds. Then I stepped back and opened the door. She entered like someone stepping into a church they hadn't visited in years. Careful, quiet, unsure of the rules. The baby made a soft cooing sound. Melissa bounced her gently, then sat on the edge of the velvet sofa. She's yours too, she said. Don't shut us out. That part hit me harder than I expected. She hadn't said the baby's name. I hadn't wanted to know, until that moment. Her name's Emily, she added softly. Emily Linda Whitmore. My throat tightened, but I said nothing. She glanced around the suite, giving a tight smile. You still like it cold in here, huh? Still, I didn't reply. She shifted the baby onto her shoulder, then let out a deep breath. We really screwed up, she said. I said things I didn't mean. We were scared. I nodded slowly, not in agreement, but to encourage her to keep talking. Josh, he's too proud to say it, but he knows. We know. We need help. That's it. No games. That's when I noticed it. The tag. Still dangling off the side of the diaper bag. I leaned slightly, saw the logo again. Posh baby. Still stiff, uncreased, brand new, just like the black SUV idling outside the hotel. Not cheap, not beat up, not desperate. They came here to get something. Nice bag, I said. She flinched, barely. It was a gift, she said quickly, from a friend. I nodded again, slower this time. Then I stepped to the window and pulled back the curtain just enough to confirm the make and model of the SUV. Shiny, engine running. When I turned back, I didn't sit down. Instead, I took a single step forward. Where is it? She blinked. What? Your phone, or camera, or whatever you're using to record this. Her mouth opened, then closed. You put it in the side pocket of the bag when you sat down, I continued. I saw it. I also saw the rental parked curbside, still running, just enough gas for a quick exit. Her lips pressed together in a tight line. We just wanted proof, she said finally. In case you tried to twist things, this isn't about hurting you. I stared at her for a long, measured beat. Then I said calmly, Get out. She stood slowly, bounced Emily gently. She's your granddaughter. No, I interrupted. She's your child. Raise her better than you treat people. Melissa didn't move, so I did. I stepped closer, closer than I ever had in anger. Let me be clear, I said, my voice even. I am not your storyline. I am not your villain, and I am most certainly not your ATM. Get out of my room before I call security, and take your designer baby bag with you. She clutched Emily tighter, turned, walked stiffly to the door, opened it, paused just long enough to say, "You'll regret this." I closed the door behind her with a softness I didn't feel, locked it, bolted it, then stood there for several seconds, breathing through the adrenaline that was shaking my hands. They didn't come here to reconnect. They came to record me snapping, to bait me into fury, to capture cruelty for clicks. But I hadn't given it to them. I had stayed calm. And now, it was my turn to document something. I opened my laptop, pulled up the city court website, and filed for a temporary restraining order. I included screenshots of Melissa's messages, details of the foreclosure, her visit to my hotel, and yes, the photo of the $950 diaper bag with the tag still attached. I uploaded a photo of the SUV and a printout of her Instagram post that said, "Evicted by my mother-in-law." The clerk called me later that night. "You're not the first," she said flatly. "You won't be the last." 2 days later, a thick envelope slid under my hotel room door. It was official. I made 5 copies. One for myself, one for the front desk, one for the local police, one for Doreen at the housing board, and one I mailed to Andrew and Melissa's last known address with a single sticky note. You wanted legal? You got it. It started with an email. Subject line, request for interview, Charlotte Local Magazine. I stared at it for a long while before opening. My tea had gone cold. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, but I didn't click right away. It had been a long week, a week of silence, a week of peace I didn't trust yet. When I finally read it, it was direct, professional, and, unexpectedly, kind. They had seen Melissa's posts, the TikTok with her standing in front of a U-Haul, mascara running, holding a cardboard sign, the Instagram slideshow with pastel backgrounds and cursive overlays titled, "When Family Betrays You." They had also seen the comments, the contradictions. Someone had sent them my way. "We'd like to hear your side," the email read. "On your terms." I didn't respond right away, but I did forward it to myself and change the subject line to, "Hold on to this." That same afternoon, Melissa posted again. Another video. No baby this time. Just her, sitting on the floor of what looked like a friend's spare bedroom, talking into the camera with the sincerity of a reality TV confessional. "We gave her everything," she said, "and in return, she took our home." I watched in silence, and then I opened the red folder. Inside were the copies, the deed, the email from the lender, the wire receipt from the insurance payout. I scrolled through my phone and pulled up the screenshot of Melissa's text. "Once she's gone, we can finally start planning the nursery." And I sent it all to the editor. No commentary. Just facts. A week later, the piece ran. Front page of the Sunday lifestyle section. When help becomes a weapon, one mother's account of financial betrayal. And beneath it, a single line Margaret Whitmore requested to open the story with, "This is not revenge. This is clarity." I didn't expect it to go viral, and it didn't, but it did ripple. The same neighborhood Facebook group where Melissa had cried for sympathy was now hosting comment threads with terms like inheritance ethics, housing entitlement, and elder financial abuse, but not in the direction Melissa had hoped. Some people asked genuine questions. Others debated. But most notably, they didn't talk about her anymore. They talked about me. Not as a villain, not even as a victim, just as a person, someone who had quietly reclaimed her narrative. I didn't respond to the buzz. I didn't post, didn't explain. But that quiet, that was mine now. Until Friday. I walked to the local cafe, the one where the barista knew my name, and ordered an Americano with oat milk and cinnamon on top. As I waited for the drink, I glanced around and saw him. Andrew, sitting alone in the corner, hoodie pulled over his head, eyes locked on a cup he wasn't drinking. He didn't see me at first. I could have turned, walked out. But then he looked up, and for a moment, our eyes met. He didn't blink, didn't wave, didn't look away. He just saw me. And I saw it too. Not regret, not anger, just distance, the kind that can't be crossed anymore, not with words, not with time, not with blood, just gone. I left the cafe without picking up my drink. That night, an email arrived. No subject line, just this. I read the article. "I won't contact you again. I'm sorry you felt like you had no choice." I read it once, then again. Then I archived it. Not out of anger, but because I had already made peace with the version of him that used to be mine, and the version now, that wasn't my responsibility anymore. The next morning, the hotel manager knocked gently and handed me a stack of forwarded mail. At the bottom, an envelope from a real estate agency, a note clipped on the outside, written in Doreen's steady hand. You've been approved. Keys are waiting. Inside, the listing. A 2-bedroom penthouse in Wilmington. 2nd floor unit, private porch, sunlight all day, ocean breeze at night. Move-in date, next Friday. Rent, just under budget. I stood in my hotel room holding that paper, hands steady, no tears, no shaking, no second guessing, because for the first time in years, I had stopped checking over my shoulder, stopped flinching when my phone buzzed, stopped shrinking myself to fit inside someone else's house. That night, I updated my will, removed Andrew's name, split everything evenly between 3 places: a domestic abuse shelter, a literacy program for women over 50, and the animal rescue where George and I used to volunteer on Saturdays. Then, I wrote one last email to my lawyer. If he ever challenges this, send them everything. All of it, publicly. I didn't wait for a reply. I knew he'd handle it. Later that night, I received a key and a letter. You've been approved. Your condo awaits. The keys jingled softly in my palm, delicate and cool. I stood in the doorway of the condo, a place I had never seen in person, but that already felt like a memory I'd been waiting to remember. The walls were white, not sterile, not cold, just open. The morning sun slanted across the laminate floors like it was painting the room in gold. The kitchen smelled faintly of lemon oil and ocean salt. A soft breeze flowed through the open sliding door, carrying the sound of gulls and distant waves. I didn't step in right away. I let the stillness speak first. Then I crossed the threshold. Room by room, I explored what was now mine. Not inherited, not loaned, not begged for, chosen. There were 2 bedrooms. One would become an art space. The other was already furnished with soft blues and cream linens. There was no television, no marble sculptures, just a sturdy wooden bookshelf and a rocking chair that creaked softly as I touched it. The closet had cedar hangers. The pantry was empty, perfect. The movers were running behind, so I took only what I had carried in my own car. A single suitcase, my quilt, the framed photo of George, the red folder, now light and worn from weeks of use, and a small white shell I'd picked up from a table near the beach. I placed them one by one across the apartment, the photo on the kitchen counter, the quilt on the end of the bed, the shell on the windowsill, the folder I locked in a small fireproof box. I boiled water in the kettle that came with the unit, a little dented, a little loud. The kind of imperfection I found charming now. I made tea, sat at the round table by the window, and watched the world move without me for a little while. There were no texts, no pleading voicemails, no doorbells or Facebook alerts or YouTube rants tagged with my initials. Just the quiet hum of traffic 3 blocks away. I stayed like that for days, unpacking one drawer at a time, filling the fridge with things I actually wanted to eat: goat cheese, strawberries, arugula, fresh basil, watering the 2 plants I bought at a roadside stand on the drive-in, 1 fern, 1 lavender. On Wednesday, I signed up for a watercolor class that met every Tuesday and Thursday in the rec room downstairs. The instructor's name was Walter. He wore suspenders, told terrible jokes, and remembered my name on day 2. One afternoon, he leaned over my shoulder, looked at my painting, a coastal marsh with just a hint of fog, and said, "You paint like someone who survived something." I smiled. "That's because I have." And I meant it. I didn't talk about Andrew, not to Walter, not to the women in the class who offered me their extra brushes or banana bread, not even to myself. He became a sealed drawer in the back of my mind, not locked, just closed, until the letter came, handwritten, 4 lines. I know I can't undo what I did. I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know I'm trying. I named her Emily Linda Whitmore. I read it twice, folded it, and placed it in the same drawer where the deed used to sit. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just let the words sit. Later that evening, I walked down to the beach. I slipped off my shoes and stood barefoot in the cool sand, the wind brushing against my cheek like a sigh I didn't know I'd been holding. The waves rolled in, steady, patient, uncaring, and I listened, not for answers, not for closure, just for breath. I thought about the girl named after me, about the boy who once brought me wilted daisies from the neighbor's yard and cried when I told him they weren't his to pick, about the man he became, and about the version of me that let herself believe she had to earn love to keep it. I stood there for over an hour, then turned and walked home. The condo was glowing when I returned, warm light spilling across the floor, my tea still steeping. I curled up on the couch with a soft throw blanket and opened a book I'd started years ago but never finished. There were no more lists, no backup plans, no need to prove anything. The shell I'd picked from the beachside artisan table sat beside my keys on the entry table. The woman who handed it to me had said, "Pick the one that calls to you." I'd chosen a blue one with silver edges. "Good choice," she'd smiled. "That one's for people who've just let go of something heavy." I had named it Peace. That night, my phone buzzed once before I turned it off. Unknown number. No message. I didn't answer. I didn't even check. I just let it fade. And then I whispered the same 5 words I'd been carrying since the day they pushed me out. "No space here either. Goodbye." Sometimes, peace doesn't come wrapped in forgiveness or tied to a reunion. It arrives quietly, like sunlight through clean windows, or the sound of your own name spoken kindly after years of silence. We often give everything we have, our money, our time, our place at the table, believing love will come back the same way. But love isn't measured in sacrifice. It's honored in how we're treated when we have nothing left to give. And maybe, just maybe, the real act of strength isn't holding on. It's knowing when to walk away and leave the door closed behind you, with your dignity, your name, and your peace intact. If this story touched something in you, consider sharing it with someone who might need that same quiet courage today. And remember, sometimes not replying is the most powerful answer of all.